Hello, I am Michaela Kostrubiak, and my partner Morgan Heckel and I researched the topic of added sugar in children's health. The FDA defines an added sugar to be any sweetener that contains calories, is used in processing or preparation of, or is added to any food or beverage after its preparation. The prevalence of childhood obesity in the United States has increased dramatically in the recent years. Eating foods high in added sugar is one of the reasons why 17% of American children are obese. Childhood obesity increases insulin resistance, causes abnormal glucose metabolism, high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, and inflammation, and also puts a child at risk for becoming an obese adult. The most recent NHANES data suggests that children consume 2 to 3 times the recommendation for added sugar. The recommendations are currently set to 6 teaspoons per day, which equates to about 10% of daily calories for children, although children are consuming about 16% of their daily calories from added sugar. This equates to about 13 teaspoons of added sugar for young children and about 22 teaspoons of added sugar per day for adolescents. All of that added sugar can really put a toll on the body. An excess of added sugar can lead the body to demand more insulin. Once carbohydrates are broken down into their simplest form, which we know as glucose, pancreatic insulin is secreted to control plasma glucose levels, and then it is utilized for energy. The more insulin that is in the blood, your body becomes resistant and more sensitive to the response of glucose. High levels of insulin can cause the body to have less hormone activity, which can ultimately lead to hyperglycemia and diabetes. That led Morgan and I to question, with added sugar being hidden in many different forms, should registered dietitians incorporate a method to assess the amount of added sugar consumed by school-aged children?
A cohort study conducted by the Research Institute of Child Nutrition examined the intake of added sugar in infancy and early childhood. The study looked at added sugar from beverages, sweets, and other food sources. They concluded that added sugar intake at low levels during childhood does not appear to be critical for BMI and body fat. However, when added sugar consumption increases, detrimental effects on the body mass develops. Another study was conducted to evaluate the snacking patterns of children between the ages of 4 and 13. The study found that about 30% of children ate sweet bakery products compared to about 9% of children who chose to eat fruit instead. A study was conducted by the Quebec Adipose and Lifestyle Investigation in Youth to determine if added sugar consumption is associated with the development of adiposity, impaired glucose homeostasis, or insulin sensitivity in obese children. Additionally, the study examined whether there is an association between solid versus liquid added sugar. The study determined the associations between added sugar intake in liquid form and a higher risk of impaired glucose homeostasis and insulin sensitivity. We decided that implementing a policy that incorporates added sugar on the food label will help consumers understand the American Heart Association sugar recommendations, which in the end will lead to reduced total added sugar consumption. Similar to the food label on your right with the red arrow pointing at the added sugars in grams. Based on the literature review and current practice guidelines, we decided that there does not need to be new changes to the current added sugar consumption guidelines. However, like we said before, implementing a policy based upon incorporating added sugars on the food label would allow consumers to understand the current added sugar recommendations, which would lead to a reduction in total added sugars consumed. Luckily, in May 2016, the FDA announced the new nutrition facts labeled for packaged foods. The aim for the updated nutrition facts label is to reflect the new scientific information, including the link between diet and chronic diseases such as obesity and heart disease. Education is another key component in reducing children's total added sugar consumption. Registered dietitians are working closely to educate parents on ways to reduce their child's total added sugar consumption. Having a registered dietitian work closely with pediatricians to help inform parents on alternative ways to avoid children consuming excessive amounts of added sugar will help communities lower rates of childhood obesity and disease. With more education and assistance from healthcare professionals, specifically registered dietitians, parents within communities will have a better understanding of added sugar and their harm to children. Here are the references we used in our presentation. Thank you for listening.